What's up, MMA fans? YouTube. Gonna come on and do UFC 75 champion versus champion predictions this weekend. So it's gonna be a really great week. Tomorrow we got WEC. So it's a pretty good week for MMA. And then the following week, I believe, or the week after that, there's fight night premiere of Ultimate Fighter 6. So there's a lot of good MMA stuff going on. Then that weekend, I believe, there's UFC 76 knockout. So really good stretch here for mixed martial arts and the UFC. Let's get right to it. Predictions. First bout of the evening we'll probably see is Houston Alexander coming off his big KO win against Keith Jardine, coming off his win against Forrest Griffin. Houston was a relative unknown, came out, shocked everybody, got rocked early, then just seemingly came back and KO'd Jardine against Alessio Sakara. Sakara been mired by inconsistency in the octagon. I think his first bout in UFC was a no contest because he got kneed in the groin, couldn't continue. Went on to win against Elvis Sinisek. He brutalized him over 3 rounds, but who doesn't anymore these days? And then I believe his last few appearances in the octagon, he's lost. It was submitted by Dean Lister, and then he was stopped by Drew McFedries in a bout where McFedries moved up to 205 to fight him and eventually stopped him. And that's where I think my opinion or my prediction is going to go in this fight. I've just seen a thing in Sakara where he doesn't mentally have the strength to push through in a tough fight. He just seems to kind of just wilt and give up under the pressure. And I think Houston in his one fight has shown that he has the ability to persevere through that pressure and that the adversity, and I think that he'll win this fight probably in the first or second round. He'll stop Alessio Sakara probably by a ground and pound after a big punch on the feet. Alessio, it's sad because he really does have really good stand-up. You see his combinations on the feet, so crisp. He's really fluid, and obviously when he goes to the ground, he's still working on that, but just seems to just wilt under the pressure or the adversity of the moment. And I think Houston will come through, win this by a stoppage in the second round. On to the next fight we're going to get to see. Similar spot for him. Michael the Count Bisping in his home country again. It's going to be a huge fight in the capital of London. Going to be fighting Matt Hamill. A fight that kind of was supposed to happen back at the Ultimate Fighter 3 and it didn't because Hamill was injured. He kind of just endured a run of injuries and bad luck there on the show. Then he's come back to win his next couple of UFC appearances. Rex Holman, I believe, was his last fight. He's fighting the hometown boy, Michael Bisping, home country boy, and this should be a really good fight. There's been some smack talk back and forth. Bisping, I believe, last I heard, was training up in Big Bear with Rampage and his trainer. It should be a really good fight. Bisping is more well-rounded in terms of stand-up and his submission game, but I think Hamill is probably more elite at wrestling. He'll probably be able to take Bisping down, hold him down. Got to watch out for a submission from the bottom, though. I think Bisping probably has been training those quite a bit. Submissions from the bottom. Probably be looking for a head kick because Hamill likes to hold his hands low, or his hands seem to drop as the fight wears on, and I think that Bisping will probably capitalize on a mistake by Hamill, catch him with something big, or eventually catch him in a submission in the second round. I just think that Hamill's not near as complete as Bisping. I think he's definitely a better wrestler, and if he's able to catch a big, he does have heavy hands and likes to throw them, so if he's able to catch Bisping with something big, get him on the ground, he could definitely advance his position and finish him. He's shown the ability to show some good ground and pound. So who knows where this fight could go, but I'm leaning towards Bisping stoppage in the late second round. On to the next fight, we're going to get to see a return of Mirko Cro Cop after his devastating highlight reel kick loss to Gabriel Gonzaga, who just lost his title shot to Randy Couture. Well, against Randy Couture, he seemingly did to Cro Cop what everybody has done by Cro Cop, is with the big head kick, and Cro Cop has seemingly done everything in his power since that moment to try to put himself in a position to train and bring in the guys that are going to get him to the level where he needs to be to fight. And I think he sort of overlooked Gabriel Gonzaga, and also overlooked the fact that he's fighting in a cage now. And from what I've read and everything I've seen, he's brought in Remy Boljarski, he's brought in Gilbert Eibel, a guy who's fought Chet Congo before and beat him. Boljarski's a K1 champion, a big-time striker. He's brought in Dean Lister to help him in his jiu-jitsu game, because Fabrizio Verdum has moved on to Shooter Box. So he's also brought in a cage to his gym, and he's really trying to put all the pieces together to make sure he doesn't suffer a loss like he did against Gonzaga. And he's fighting a good striker in Congo. I think Congo's strikes are good because of his length. He seems to throw very wide strikes, though. His punches, he seems to throw wider shots. Doesn't really seem to kick much. This fight is obviously going to stay on the feet. Crow Cop in Congo, that's one guarantee. Too bad there's not a bet, because it'd be the easiest bet. This fight's going to end in a knockout. Can't see this fight going to a decision at all. I predict Crow Cop to win this fight via a knockout, probably from a body kick or something straight right down the middle, similar to what he did against Fedor and against Mark Coleman. He was shooting a straight left right down the middle, and he's very accurate with that punch. And I think he'll probably finish Congo with a body shot or a straight punch down the middle, or a combination, or you never know, he could go with the head kick too. So I think Crow Cop, when you motivate him a la the Randleman loss, probably the Gonzaga loss, he goes on a tear, fights harder, seems to refine his game a little bit, and I think he'll come back and he'll defeat Congo by a knockout. On to the swing bout of the evening. This will either be seen or it won't be seen due to time constraints, I guess. Marcus Davis against Paul Taylor, and I kind of do want to see this fight, because from what I've read about Taylor and everything I've seen from Davis, it's going to be a stand-up fight. Although Davis is on a 9-fight winning streak, believe it or not. He's won his last 9 fights since his loss to Melvin Gillard back when it was a UFC the Ultimate Final 2 finale. He's been submitting a lot of his opponents as of late, and has gone to the ground with Shoney Carter and survived. Stopped Pete Spratt via submission, though Spratt is kind of a submission victim quite a bit, and he knocked out Tan in his last fight over in Ireland. So this should be a really good stand-up fight. Taylor seems to prefer the KO as well. He's had a couple of noteworthy wins, one against Zelig Galicic, a guy who had a fight in the last ever Pride show, it seems like now, Kamikaze, and he's knocked him out, and he's a really good stand-up fighter from Croatia also, a la Crow Cop. So I pick, if this fight does go to the ground, I think Davis will win by submission, and I think Davis could either, but you never know, but I think Davis could knock him out. Davis seems to have a problem cutting, though, from his history. He has a cutting problem, but in his last fights he really hasn't had that issue come up. So I picked Davis to win, probably by a submission in the second round. Now on to the main event. Dan Henderson, the Pride light heavyweight champion, it's called their middleweight championship, against the UFC light heavyweight champion Quentin Rampage Jackson. And years ago, it's kind of irony we're seeing these two guys hook up in this capacity, where it was for years it was either going to be Randy or Chuck versus Vanderlei, and that never came to pass. Now this has come to pass, and I'm kind of glad it's happening on foreign soil as opposed to American soil, where fans are still taking to Rampage and still don't really know who Dan Henderson is, unfortunately. But this should be a really, really good fight. I'm looking forward to this fight. A lot of people have made the comparison. It might be go the way of a Matt Lindland versus Rampage, and I don't see that happening, because Dan Henderson's striking is a lot better than Matt Lindland's, and I think this fight will stay on the feet. And it's going to be a really, really tough fight to call, because Dan's never been knocked out. He's shown he can be submitted, but those are both against the Nogueira brothers. So And Rampage will not submit anybody. That's one thing I can guarantee. He won't be trying to submit Dan Henderson. He'll be trying to stop him, pound him out, either on the feet or on the ground. And this is going to be a really a war and a half. It's going to be a war of attrition, really, I think. I have to go with Rampage because he's just I'm going to put these factors into play, the size factor, although that's never really bothered Dan. Kind of did in the end of the Nogueira fights, where it was just a bigger man imposing his will with the armbar, 230, 225 plus pounds. Rampage is gonna be that big. The big slams, the momentum coming off the knockout win over Chuck. Chuck has a really good chin, and he laid Chuck down with one punch, and everybody can be laid down with one punch. And Rampage is kind of hard to stop with punches. He's always been knocked out via the knees, pretty much. And Dan is a big time puncher. He likes to throw his hands and let them do the talking for him. So I see this fight going the way of Rampage, probably in the third or fourth round, probably by a ground and pound finish. I think he'll wear on Dan with his size. I think he's a lot crisper on his feet too. Dan's punches are a lot wider, a lot more plodding. I think Rampage's combinations are more fluid, a little more crisp. Showed some good technique in the last fight with Liddell. I think he'll win this fight against Henderson and be the undisputed lightweight champion in the world. He'll probably go on to face maybe Shogun again. I don't see why he should fight Liddell again. But you never know. They might pit Vanderlei, Liddell, the winner fights Rampage down the road somewhere. So we'll see what happens. And also a little side note from this event, Fedor is going to be there. I wouldn't read too much into it, but Fedor is going to be in attendance. He's also signed a sponsorship with Affliction, as every other fighter seems to nowadays. They're still negotiating, I've heard. Apparently a deal is going to be done soon. I don't know if it'll be with the UFC, with K1, with Bodog. But apparently his management's not going to wait too much longer to get something signed. He's been on the sidelines a little too long. Last fight was against Linland, so I think they want to get him in the ring as soon as possible, or the cage as soon as possible. And Randy's also going to be there, so we'll see what happens. That's just an interesting little side note that Fedor going to be attending his first UFC event, and we'll see if they show him on camera, and we'll see if something's announced there. But I wouldn't assume anything just yet. But it's interesting that he will be there, so they'll be doing some talking during, before, and after the event. So let's hopefully get him signed. Until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. Can't wait to hear what your thoughts and predictions are for this card. It's a really good card. It's free. You can't complain about that. So let's have a great week, folks. Take care.